Hello everybody, it is John and my producer Pippin. Hello lad, how are we today? He said, oh, we still got that big black dog with us, Dad. She still upsets me. But we're not doing too badly, are we? No. Well, 2022 is almost over. Yes. Another few hours and it will be it. So what's happened this year? Having a back and having a look. So I guess the main thing I would like to start with is to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I now have over 1,000 people, which honestly I thought I would never obtain. My channel is more for my own therapy, shall I call it that? And the fact that I'm just the average gamer. I am not somebody who is overly skilled or competitive. I guess I'm just the average, dare I say, man on the street. So look, thank you everybody who has made that milestone for me. So who knows what next year will bring. But at this stage, let's continue on with my little bit of review. So looking at my board games, I have for 2022, I've engaged in 315 plays. Yes, not as in games, but 315 engagements with people playing whatever games that have cropped up during the year. And out of that, I gamed with 40 individuals, of whom I thank them very much for allowing me to either be included in your games or you've decided to join in with one of the many game sessions that I've been privy to. So, and these were done at 4 locations here in Brisbane. And the exciting thing was I got to play 86 new games. Yes, 86, which probably means that that's 86 more games I want to add to my collection of games, isn't it? Yes. He said, Dad, where are you going to put them? Well, maybe Mum might move out and let me have her room. Oh no, he said, don't do that. He said, what will the cat think? Yes, I know. The cat wouldn't be very happy, would she? No. So, yeah, so that was, yeah, I always have to try and collect games. I love games, particularly if I've played them and I've enjoyed them. My usual response to most people is, that game would look exceptionally good on my shelf. Why don't you leave it here and let me look after it for you? So I am the biggest scrounger that you can probably imagine. Being a penniless pensioner, it's if I can get something for nothing, I'm quite happy to do so. At least people know where their games will be. Hang on, somebody's about to leap off. Oh, good. We've had some wonderful bits of accidents, I guess, with knocking cameras. Oh, my video quality has been far from brilliant, shall we say. So I guess looking at my gaming profession, and this again is with board games, is that I've played mostly in what I'd call the weekend mode, which is Fridays to Sundays. They are the 3 primary days in which I get to engage with other people. And a third of the games, though, have been with only one other player. So that's 2 players. So that will always be me and somebody else. So a third of the games that I logged, which is obviously the 315 plays, a third of those were, so what's that, roughly 100? Yeah, roughly 100. Would have been just 2-player. and the rest, well, the others, which I would classify as the, shall we say, the 3 to 6 player, which is, I guess, the average, well, not so much average, 4, I suppose, is it, but 48% of my games were in that 3 to 6 player category. So that's with 3 to 6 other people that I've played. So what else have I been up to? Well, look, I joined a club in Brisbane called the League of Extraordinary Gamers, and I'm very happy that I have joined another group of like-minded people. So that has been good. And I must thank my good friend Joe, who picks me up and takes me to the club. Without him, I truly would be lost with getting to the club. But yeah. So what else has happened? Look, I've had a lot of fun gaming with a lot of people. Sadly, I've lost some acquaintances over this year. Again, my mental health has some problems. I have trigger periods, and sadly, one of the trigger periods coincided with a game day, and the people could not deal with my mental health issues. So I've sadly lost some people in regards to that. But these things happen. A lot of people today, while they say, "Oh yes, we're very supportive of people who have maladies," but look, if it inconveniences me, no, I'm not going to tolerate. And these are the things, sadly, throughout. And as you will see from a previous vlog video that I did, which was Disability D&D, I think we can see that these I'm trying to think of the word now, can't think of it. These prejudices, shall I call it that, have been around for decades, and yes, it's fairly sad. So that is my board gaming life, I guess, out of the way. Audible, yes, the only way I can cope with my inability to deal with everything is I need a constant barrage of noise, shall we call it that. And I have found that the only way to distract me from my self-destructive urges is through audiobooks. And I have been listening to so many. Now, I think I joined Audible either I think December 2019 or in 2020. So it was just when COVID kicked in. And since I've joined Audible, I have clocked up listening hours that equate to, and this is very scary when you look at it, 16 months, 23 days, 8 hours and 42 minutes as of the time of this recording. Yes, I do listen to a lot, and I have I think 670 titles, a bit more probably. I have accumulated quite a few. I think Audible has done very well out of me with getting audiobooks and that. So I just find that listening is the greatest distraction that I can find, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The only problem though now, pardon me, is trying to find, oh dear, why am I suddenly you get everything with my videos. Yeah, the problem now is trying to find books that will captivate and interest me, because I have a particularly penchant for penchants. I can't. Okay, look, my English is failing me today. It just shows you how bad things are for me. We're coming to the end of the year, which sadly is one of the trigger periods for me, and hopefully I will survive through into the new year. But it's yeah, trying to find other audiobooks that have the right amount of humour and wit as well as good storytelling in there is very, very difficult. I'm finding that at the moment, because I really like urban fantasy books, and I'm so over werewolves and vampires. It's really, yeah, dull and boring now. You know, even druids. Everybody's gone on the, since Kevin Hearn and his popularity there. Ben, what is it? Rivers of London. I didn't mind that, but I've since lost some interest in the direction that the novels have taken, even though I like the concept of what it is. And I see that there is a role playing game brought out by Chaosium called The Rivers of London, which I will have to get and hope that they haven't made it as bad as I fear that it might be. Seeing that, let's just say, I was far from impressed with Chaosium's Terra Australis publication, and I really do wish that businesses would conduct business and not play politics and identity politics. It is really not their place to do so. But clearly, we have a generation of poorly educated and indoctrinated younglings, anybody obviously younger than me, but then I've even got some my age who are just as daft, that would prefer to chase these identity politics than to actually stop looking in the past. You can't change the past. The past is gone. Look at the present. Solve the issues that are here and now without trying to link it constantly back to the past so that you've got an excuse to flog your ideological preferences. So, but yeah, as you can tell, I'm a grumpy old man. A grumpy old white man. That's even worse. Yes. Actually, I see we had a bit of a kerfuffle out here in Australia where some issue was made by an ABC presenter called Philip Adams, who thinks of himself as being highly educated and far more intellectual than the rest of us. And consequently, he decided to have a go at Kamal. Kamal, was the side issue. But he decided that because Sir Donald Bradman, who is one of our greatest cricket heroes here in Australia, because he preferred conservative politics, was attacked by this ABC presenter. And we have a gentleman by the name of Kamal, who's a singer, and he is I can't recall what nationality he is, but he has got a beautiful singing voice. I know we had quite a few records of his from the 70s and into the 80s, I think. He used to appear quite a lot on a show called Hey Hey It's Saturday, and he was very much loved by so much of the community. However, Philip Adams decided to call him an honorary white man. Now, if anybody else had said something like that, there would have been so much hoy and outcry and things like that we'd still be hearing about it. But because our free-to-air television is all dominated by the left, we don't hear a word, which is very sad, because the days of balanced news no longer appears. We have, sadly, agencies now that have decided that they know what is best for us, and that we don't get to hear both sides of a story, or we only hear one side of the story that suits the narrative that sadly is always being espoused by the left. I am a conservative. I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm a white man. Yes, I make no apologies for anything that I am. It's just who I am, and that defines me. And to be quite honest, I find that a lot of people have a lot of time for me, and I am blessed by the associations that I have forged with people over the last, well, 6 decades, very shortly. God. Yes, next year I end up with a 0. Well, this corpse that I'm walking around in will have clocked up quite a few decades. So, yes, I'm getting old. Well, this body's getting old. My mind is still quite... I like to think that I'm still 20. But I don't think I'm quite in that particular category anymore. But look, I've got to leave politics alone because, look, honestly, as a content creator, I don't really want to be pushing, I guess, my conservative views on people, which is why I try to keep my little quips to myself. I may sometimes let slip, but I try to give a balanced view by saying, look, it's your enjoyment that you should be chasing. And really, you have no right to impose on others your particular viewpoint. And this is the issue. I have no problems playing with anybody as long as they conduct themselves civilly and with regards to other people within a group. And, I have quite a lot of friends who are at both ends of the spectrum, left and right, who I get on with quite well. The only problem is I tend to find that it's only people on the left who are deciding that they will no longer interact with people who don't fit their perfect little world. Well, sadly, everybody, I hate to tell you that after about 5,000 or 6,000 years of civilization, probably more, but anyway, the concept of humanity growing up will never, ever occur. The only way you're going to achieve anything that you would like to think may be a harmonious and well-ordered society is through totalitarianism, where you dictate to everybody what they can and can't do and what rights, and it is impossible to be able to administer without revolution. And that's, people seem to forget is that history has shown us that we have an inability to get on with each other, even within our own identity of people. I'll use that rather than the word race, because essentially humanity is a race of humans. It's ethnicity is where the differences occur, and these may be based on obviously somebody's skin tone. But the Europeans, hell, we've been fighting each other for so many years now that I don't know why people seem to think that we're racist. We hate each other as much as anything. God knows I can't say I particularly like the French, but then the United Kingdom has been at war with France probably more than it's ever been at peace. So, look, that's... I said I was going to leave this topic alone, didn't I? Oh dear, look. But role-playing, I'm getting back into it. I've been sadly supporting Wizards of the Coast, who I am finding at this stage is just really producing substandard product. And looking at an article that I saw written today, well, not written, it was posted on social media, but it was like, here's some writing tips, and we've gone from a rather nice description of a particular character. It's all been condensed down to one paragraph. And I'm sorry, but I find that brevity does little except extol the limited attention span of people who can't be bothered to read anything that's incredibly long. You know, it's why so many people don't seem to like games from the 80s, because we've been spoilt with what now is being produced. That's not to say, see, people tend to forget that these games that were produced back in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s were thoroughly enjoyed by people, and otherwise they would never have been produced and given us our next generation of board games. And it's disappointing to find that people again are essentially attacking the older generation of gamers because of our preferences, dare I say it. You know, I do enjoy many of the modern games that are being produced today. However, I am just as happy to go back and play so many of the older games that are in my collection. Like, for instance, I love Starfleet Battles. I love Battletech, Starfire, so many of the old Avalon Hill games. I've just recently, which I've done a video on, picked up The Source of the Nile. I think I got that one. Sorry, I'm just having a think. God, did I get the title right? Yes, The Source of the Nile, which is an excellent game. And but again, many of these were written in a time where people preferred to be very, shall we call it, verbose in our writing. But then, myself coming from a quality assurance background, as in my last job that I had was in quality, well, not quite my last job, but one of my significant roles that I had within the government was in quality assurance. And I tended to have to write fairly extensive documents. So I would do this with gay abandon. I loved writing documents, due to the fact that I would always assume that the reader is an absolute idiot and needs to be told that they're an idiot by making the text as simple as possible while imparting as much information as possible. It's always interesting in the fact that we almost need that in our role-playing games or board games, is that when you're writing your manuals, assume that the person who is reading it is an idiot and that the information needs to be portrayed in the simplest of terms. But that simplest does not mean brevity. Except there's always exceptions to the rules, are there not? You know, yes, it's lovely when a rule book is nice and short, but obviously if you've got a very complex game, you cannot reduce complexity down to a 2-sentence extrapolation, can you? So it's, yeah. Oh dear. Oh, I'm often around. So yeah, 2022 has been a stressful year for me. It's not been particularly happy. There have been many changes in Australian politics, which I can't say have been for the better. And I tend to find that a lot of the public services of which our nation proudly was acknowledged for have now sadly started to erode. And we have so many issues, like for instance with our increasing cost of electricity and petrol, because Australia is a vast country. You know, it's not like, say, the UK, where everything's within a fairly small, overpopulated countryside or country, well, particularly around the cities, obviously, but Australia is an extremely spread out You know, we have our capital cities, but the rest of Australia, our politicians tend to forget that there are people who live outside the cities, and that catering for the hoi polloi and the those people is not Australia in itself. So, yeah, it's interesting. But the thing that did come out of this year for me was that I got approval for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS, we call it here. So hopefully that now will give me the resources that were previously provided gratis within the health system. And it's one of those things that I think I should like to point out is that it's interesting that many of the people within the health services are pushing people to get on the NDIS because the states cannot, without extensive remodeling or re-examining where they're spending their money in the wrong places, you know, they're telling people, look, apply for the NDIS because you'll get the money that you need to be able to access the services that will help you. So rather than 20 years ago when I first entered the mental health system, where the Department of Health actually supported and looked after people with long-term mental illnesses, now it is nothing more than a triage service where they're only looking at people who are severely damaged or are survivors of suicide, like I have been on a number of occasions. And it's making, obviously, people complaining. You know, they're going, why have we spent billions of dollars on the NDIS? Well, the thing is, the states are reducing their services, and they're basically saying, well, we're going to make it a Commonwealth issue now. The Commonwealth can cough up and pay for the issues that are of concern. I also should need to point out too is that with our electricity grid was previously owned by the state. And I think without exception, the sale of all the electricity grid was done by Labor, particularly here in Queensland. It was a Labor government that decided to sell off the energy grid, the power stations and everything else to private enterprise. They got a huge stack of money, still retained, by the way, significant shareholder status within these businesses. So consequently, Labor's not keen to see energy prices come down because their income drops accordingly if less monies are taken. So this is one of the things that people seem to not realise and don't like have pointed out to them. But anyway, I think rambled on long enough. So look, 2022, I've survived it so far. Who knows what 2023 will be? My regime really is waking up in the morning and going, my God, I'm still here. Why? And there's very little, thank God I don't live in Canada. They'd probably euthanize me. But it is sadly a struggle to get through. My house is slowly disintegrating around me. I'm not sure. I think there's more white ants in my house than wood. But what can I do? I can't afford the thousands of dollars to treat it or even to replace. So yeah, it's a struggle. My mental health is continually still going in a downward spiral. Not that you could really tell from me doing my videos, but I try to put on the best face I can as part of part of my therapy. Yes. So anyway, look, thank you everybody for watching this 30 minutes worth of absolute rubbish. And hopefully I will see everybody in the new year. So till next time, signing off, the Honourable John. Yes, I've been doing some editing. I've decided that I really have got to stop waffling on about my own identity politics, and so consequently I've made some changes, which is why we've now come in it here, and you see me with a pencil, and I'm trying to have a look at what it is that I've trying to access here. It's interesting. I've got this Board Game Geek app, which doesn't work very well, I'm afraid. Oh, here we go, finally. So, according to Board Game Geek, and I know that it'll be different on the internet access version, but I'm using my phone at the moment anyway, but it's saying here that I have 709 games in my collection. That's scary. And that will actually include expansions. So looking at this, I believe that I actually have, according to this, 590 games in my collection. I think there's actually 600. I think there is a difference between, for some reason, with looking at this. So as you can tell, I don't think I want to try and count all the role-playing games and stuff that I've got, but then I should also probably include a lot of the Humble Bundle and Bundle of Holding material that I've been getting. Yes, I have come to the conclusion that it is very, very expensive to buy anything here in Australia, particularly role-playing game side. I am these days predominantly buying PDF, and thankfully more from Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle will actually give you an Australian price to start with, and usually there is quite a lot of material provided within the publications that they've got. Like I think recently there was a BattleTech one on Humble Bundle, and I think there were 30 titles or 20, might have been 20 titles, I can't remember. There were quite a few, and it was only like, I think, was it $26 Australian for about 20 or 30 books? And that's been the case with a number of other role-playing packages or bundles that they provide. Is that, for instance, Pathfinder, I've been picking up quite a bit through there. I see recently they've just put up Forbidden Lands and Vaesen and Wesen. I'm not too sure how it's pronounced, but it's a Nordic horror role-playing game. I would actually buy that, but at this stage I'm still debating because it's offering the Forbidden Lands role-playing material, of which I've already picked up through, I think it might have been through Bundle of Holding, which is the other one. And now the problem I found with Bundle of Holding now is that, pardon me, is they're not as generous as they used to be with what they gave you, and consequently, and the fact that they put like levels, you know, here's the starter, and now if you want the full lot, sometimes the price can be, you know, if you were an American, which obviously which is where they're probably primarily targeting, it's probably not too bad a price. But for here in Australia with our bottle top economy, it becomes very, very expensive. I think we're at 63 cents for the exchange rate, which means that a lot of games are very, very expensive. And I don't really think that it's going to get any better. So I've never known prices to come down. No matter how much governments love to say, yes, competition, and that will drive prices down. No. Sorry. I have very rarely, as I can see here in Australia, for the second-hand market prices for so many board games and even for miniatures is the ridiculous sum of money that people seem to think that they can get. Quite frankly, the prices that particularly people outside of my state offer, by the time I factor in postage, I may as well buy the game brand new. But obviously the thing is here is that in most cases they're usually games that are no longer in print or very, not difficult, but it's expensive to have brought in from overseas. But yes, another one of my pet hates is bloody second-hand prices. And of course people go, well, the market will pay what it's prepared to pay. And I'm there going, yes, well, it doesn't have to charge that amount of money. But of course, people today, greedy, and consequently want as much of their money back as possible, if not with a profit. So, it's not just, big business that are out there to root everybody. It's also the average Joe who is always trying to get as much as they can for what they have. Ah, dear, oh dear. Now, my phone is consequently making strange things. Starting up in 2023, we're doing Battletech, and that's currently what all the little blinging in the background is. My group. We're giving Simon a rest. He ran Imperial Assault all of last year, and I think a bit of the year before, and we finally finished one of the campaign booklets, and that was indeed a lot of fun. And so I put my hand up. Battletech has reappeared here in Australia. I found a delightful online source that has provided me a huge number of mechs as free STL downloads. So I've been getting a friend of mine, not the one who was supposed to do it for me, but another one, who has printed them for me. So I'm very happy to have this collection of mechs. And I'm just wondering, what are you up to, Pip? What's up, mate? He's not happy because I've shut the door because my wife is watching television. And sadly, anytime Anthony Albanese gets to speak, or that's our Prime Minister here for people who don't know, she starts hurling so much abuse at the television that it is difficult to do a lot of my recording, particularly in the later afternoon come evening. Yes, dear, oh dear, oh dear. I've never known a lady to use the words that my wife uses, particularly when she's come from my generation of people where ladies were supposed to be ladies, not gutter snipes. But anyway, that's... Yes, what's up? But yes, Battletech. And apart from that, I'm also looking at starting for the group Dungeons and Dragons again. But this time I'm going back to old school OSE, old school essentials, is it? Or old school Renaissance, or whatever OSR, whatever you'd like to call it. We're going back to the original D&D, the BX books. Although I'm tempted with a few other interpretations. I think Necrotic Gnome or Necrotic Games. Can't remember. All I can remember is Necrotic in their business name. They have done old school essentials is what they've done, and I quite like how the book and everything is set out for that. And I'm finding that the old school role-playing games are suiting me far better than today's overly complex, unnecessarily let's give everybody whatever they like concept of role-playing. For me, role-playing is about playing within a narrative and working with the limitations of which you're given, not with the unlimited opportunities and advancements that come from an unrealistic concept of individualism. Geez, that's an interesting waffle of words, isn't it, John? But yeah, look, it's Yes, I've gone back to BattleTech. Really happy with that. Of course, I'm not taking them beyond the Succession Wars. I'm sticking in that time period before the clans arrive, because, quite frankly, the clans and that just unbalanced, in my opinion, the whole game. I know people will say that it's different, but I don't really like the clan period, and I certainly did not like the way that they developed once FASA um, lost control or sold off to the other business that took over. Um, it's gone downhill. Dark Ages, Jihad. Just it did not interest me. I'd have preferred quite happily if they'd have stuck with Fourth Succession War period, and just that whole BattleTech universe is so huge. They could have quite easily covered so much more political machinations and things like that within the Fourth War Succession period. And, rather than jumping ahead 50, 100 years or whatever from, 3028, 3025, they could have kept it, advanced it slowly year by year. But of course, businesses are there to make money. They're not really interested in what the pundits, well, old pundits like me, have an interest in. So, look, I don't care. I will continue to play the game how I like to play it. And thankfully, there are quite a lot of people I know who prefer to play in that previous and earlier time frame, which, dare I say, the golden age of BattleTech, which was when it first came out, until it sort of fell over a bit. But anyway, before the clans anyway. So, Fourth Succession Wars. Don't go beyond. Oh, there I am. I'm doing Kenny Everett, waving my big umbrella, which is in this case just a pencil. I won't turn around and show you my ladies' underwear that's on my back. Yeah, that'll go over most people's head. They're going to go, who the hell is Kenny Everett? Yes, a very humorous disc jockey and TV personality from the 70s and 80s. Very good, very good. Go find him. He's an exceptional, well, once again, my style of humour, and which sadly probably doesn't appeal to many people today. So, yes, look, I'm a dying old breed of man who still keeps his love for humour and everything in the past, which is interesting. I was listening to somebody who classified themselves as a comedian, and I'm sorry, I couldn't even find anything to laugh about. Modern comedians, sadly, are too politically correct, and their material is exceptionally dull and boring. Yes, there you go, I've said it. But yeah, so what else? So 2023, hopefully, I don't know, it's not the best. It's a year that I add a 0 to, which may be in the earlier part, seeing this is now a part that's overwriting another part. Paradigm, yes. Oh dear. Anyway, look, thank you everybody who has helped me this year in 2022. Some people that I would like to shout out to, obviously, are the two Pauls. I would particularly like to thank Joe, who has been so wonderful with taking me to clubs and coming over and gaming with me. I would like to thank Dan, who helped me out when my fridge died, and so many other people, I guess, that I could mention. But you know who they are. They are really the main people that I would. Scouts just decided to try and eat one of the neighbours, and Pippin's not happy that he can't go out there and bark. So look, I think I will call it quits here now and say, look, I hope everybody, your 2023 is a good year for you, and hopefully I will continue to produce some material. So until next time, signing off, the Honourable John.